Hey guys, it's Justin again with another work in progress video. This is going to be the first work in progress, albeit the third time I've shot it, for the 1:100 MECHANICORE ZERSTÖRE. Now this is, again I said in the unboxing, MECHANICORE's version of the Gundam Kasi, but it's a very big kit. This is a 1:100 scale kit. So keep that in mind. And even though it is 1:100 scale, just the leg, just the leg is as tall as this RE-100 GP04. So very, very big kit. Now originally I was going to build up the other leg frame and show you the pieces and stuff on camera. I had started the other leg a little bit, very little, off camera while I was doing this one up. And I was going to show you what the frame and all that looked like and what all this entailed and how it fit together and all that stuff. But this is just a nightmare, I'm going to be honest. It's not a bad kit. The problem is some of the engineering wasn't, I don't want to say tested before they went ahead and put the okay on some of this. A lot of these parts just kind of bump into one another. A lot of these parts just outright don't fit. The biggest offender of this would be the frame for the kit. It's not MECHANICORE's frame, it's a G-System frame. But then some of their armor, especially down here towards the ankles and the feet, either just doesn't make sense or it doesn't fit, one of the two. I bump into this stuff all the time. I bump into this bottom piece on the ankle here is the worst part. You can actually kind of see that it's blue tack so it would hold it together, but it doesn't align properly. See? And just doing that, you can see that that's incredibly, it's not even attached. Wow. So this is going to require a little bit of work on my part. Actually, a lot of work on my part. But the kit is nice. It's very pretty. It's very nicely detailed. I'm going to have to do a lot of sanding. I'm not looking forward to it. Articulation. Get a really, really, really cool knee bend out of that. That looks really good. That's the first time I've actually done that. Wow. That looks really nice. Although, even though you're getting really nice articulation out of this, it's such a big, bulky, heavy kit that you're not really going to be able to pose it. This is one of those ones that's just going to be standing, looking menacingly on your desk. You might be able to put the guns and the equipment in its arms, and that's going to be about the extent of it. I don't think you're going to move this one around too much for fear of messing up anything with it. But don't let that discourage you if you decide to pick this guy up. It is really nicely detailed, and if you can figure out how to work super glue, most of this kit's problems do go away. You just have to be patient. That's the biggest thing, is be patient. Take your time and don't really rush yourself through the build. I'm not crazy about a lot of the detail pieces they've done on here. There's like these leg vents that you do. They're in like 2 or 3 parts, and it just doesn't make any sense to me why they couldn't have just molded that and like had a plug or something like that. Because I'm sure copywriting is not an issue, considering this kit comes from China, and just the fact that this kit exists is a huge, red flag to the copyright department of things. But another one is you build vents here where these red pieces are, these red inlays, but you literally just put these pieces over them. I actually have them blue tacked in so they don't move, but they don't plug in. Like, you build vents, well, there you go. You build vents and then you cover them with the red pieces, and then it just, there's a lot with this kit that doesn't make a lot of sense. But again, like I said, it's not a bad kit. You just have to wrestle with it a little bit and glue a lot together, and it will look how it's supposed to. I haven't had to do any sort of major resculpting or major fixing yet. A lot of people expected that, and a lot of people said they had to do that kind of stuff. Besides like these leg vents, I think part of that's because this leg armor isn't all the way on. You can see a little bit of that poking through, but again, nothing a little putty and some sanding won't fix. There's a lot of texture on these armor pieces, a lot of texture. I'm not sure if I'll be able to show that off. Let's see if I can zoom in something. Like all those little specks, that's all textured, and it's on all the pieces, not just the, not just the blues, not just the whites. Pretty much everything has texture to it. So I'm going to have to sand this entire kit, which is not my favorite thing. So this will be done in custom colors. I'm not doing an out-of-box color scheme for this, as per my client's request. We'll go over all that when we get to it. But the next, well, I guess it won't be when we get to it. I guess we're going to show off some of the cleaning, and then hopefully I'll remember to record some of the reassembly and all that stuff, so you guys can see how it goes together, and how much I'm gonna cuss as I do it. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this disassembled and parted out on the table. Ooh. Look at that, I dropped it and both sides came off. But I'm going to part this out, I'm going to put it on the table, and then I guess we'll come back and have a look. We can separate it by colors and things like that. We'll start to devise a battle plan of sorts. So I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, so I've pretty much taken most of it apart. There's not as many pieces here as I thought there would be. Most of the parts that come on the runners are a lot of small detail parts anyway. Like this, for example, rather than being molded in like 1 or 2 parts, you pop this apart, and then you pop these little side things off for some reason, and there's like a piece on the back here, and then this is like a top piece, I think. It's a little bit silly just how many pieces are in this kit. And this is another example of how odd some of the engineering is. This is a peg, and there's no peg hole. It just plugs in to, like, for no reason. So I don't know. It's an odd kit. There's a lot of odd parts to the construction, but whatever. So we've got it down to the frame. Plans for the frame. I'm pretty much going to paint this whole thing just alclad steel, I think. Just knock it all out, bend all the pieces and stuff like that, and then paint all of it the frame color that I want. Because there's a lot of screws and stuff in here, and a lot of things that won't, are really difficult to get out in and out over and over and over again. So I don't want to break anything. I've actually already cracked 1 or 2 pieces that I'm going to have to fix. For the next one, I'll be like seaming up and gluing pieces on as I go, so that it all fits together how it should. Now, another weird thing here is Bandai does this too. These piston housings are way too tight. I've stripped the paint on them and everything, so there's no extra. There should be more than enough room for them to move comfortably, but they're really tight. And it's not just these ones that do it; it's all of them on the whole kit. These ones are okay, but not the best. So I'm gonna probably mask these off, or not mask them off, but probably take these off and chrome them, and probably paint them like a blue or maybe a red, gold, something like that. I'm not sure yet. So all the pistons on the kit are going to be one color, so all that red is going to go and turn into something else. So I haven't decided on all the frame colors yet. I'm going to probably do a little bit of frame masking and stuff like that, even though most of the frame does not stick out whatsoever. But I do want this to be done well, and I want it to be detailed, and I want it to look good. So the legs come apart in like a trillion pieces. There's this, then there's this piece, and then this is 2 pieces for some reason. Yeah, these guys went all out on the parts. But again, you can see that bend works really well, looks good. Folds back up most of the way how it should. I don't know why this thing is here, what this thing serves or what it does. Like, it pops out and it looks neat, but then it doesn't go back in properly. That's the issue. It doesn't even stay in when it is in properly. So to do, finish disassembling the frame, get all these pieces how I want them, go back through the instructions one more time and make sure there's no photo etch pieces that go on here. Paint this up. I think I'm going to disassemble. I can disassemble the knee and all that stuff, so I don't have to worry about moving it too much. I just, take it apart and then put this stuff back on and get it done up how it should be. And I'm going to try and remove as much of this texture as I can, especially around the knees and the ankles, because a lot of that does stick through. Then I will separate everything else by color. Well, yeah, and then I'm going to give it a first round of primer, see what needs to be done, and then just keep moving on, keep trucking. So I guess I'll come back and we can... Alright, we're back. I've gone ahead and done my first run through of some of these pieces. You can't see a major difference. I don't even know if it's going to show up on camera or not. I've gone ahead and primed up this piece. I sanded down half of it. I sanded down this half. So you can see that this edge has been done over. I rescribed all the lines just to be on the safe side. And this side is a little bit more textured. The primer actually covers up the texture pretty good, but you can, when the light hits it like that, you can still see the texture as opposed to this side where it's a little smoother. So what I need to do is go ahead and sand down this side completely, give it one more quick prime, and then once I rescribe the lines on this side, I will go ahead and I'll wet sand it. So I'll give it a nice smooth finish with like a 1000 grit sandpaper, and then I'll prime it one more time just to keep everything nice, even, and looking good. And then this will be the first piece that's ready to go. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually do all the rest of the pieces like this. I'm going to separate everything by the color that it's going to be painted when it's done, and then I'm going to go back and, that way everything's all squared away and I don't have to worry about it. I handled some issues with some of these parts here. This is going to need a little bit of putty here and there, I think. But for the most part, it's all squared away and looking how I want it to. So, very little work left to be done on this besides paint. I think I got most of the nubs anyway, but we'll see. So, outer armor is getting pretty close. I need to order batteries for this, which I found a bunch online for a pretty decent price. Another thing I need to do is order more paint. My paint stock is, well, especially the colors that I need for this, is getting particularly low. But I've started a handful of, cleaning. I've started cleaning some stuff, and I've done some other things. I've laid down my first round of chrome on the pistons, and I've done well, I say my first layer of chrome, my first layer of candies, and that is just a candy cobalt blue. I think another round of that, and that'll look how I want it to. When it dried over the weekend, I went over to visit my girlfriend on the island, and the color faded sort of, so hopefully another round of that will fix that problem, and it'll deepen right back up how it's supposed to be. But basically I'm going to separate everything here and then go ahead and start my glorious conquest to clean all this nonsense. So, I'll be back and we can look at what's next. Alright, so I bumped into a little trouble spot when I was sanding everything off. Everything was all sanded, but I encountered this. You can see those little bubbles. That is where the plastic is actually concave instead of being flush and flat. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go ahead and just putty this up with a very tiny bit of Tamiya putty. I've got plenty of like little strips of plastic here that I'm not going to use. I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of that on there. And I guess just get like a toothpick. That should work just fine. And just lay it on there. Smooth it out the best I can. And let it dry. So once that dries, I'll sand that down into the 4 angles that it was, and make sure there's no bubbles or anything like that in it. The biggest 2 concerns are the bottom 2 parts. The top 2 parts can be smoothed out a little bit, so that won't be too bad. But once all this dries, we will give it a once over. So now I'm off to rescribe lines, so I will see you guys in a few. Okay, so I've actually gone ahead and painted all this stuff up. I've only done the blues so far, but I've painted them in an orange. This is as per my client's request. He actually liked the team colors, so he asked if I wanted to paint them, his kit, in this color. So I went ahead and agreed, and this is where we're at right now. So the next order of business is to probably do yellows, just since there's only a handful of them, and I can just kind of glue them in when I'm finished. And then we'll work on metallics in the frame and other stuff like that. But we are started. That's the important thing. So I'm going to go through all this, make sure everything's touched and everything's even. I'm really happy with the way the shading looks. You can see it pop a little more than it normally would under the light. But I do like it. I think it looks nice. I went ahead and shaded this with red. This is Mr. Color's Red Matter, and I blended it all in with just Mr. Color Orange. It came out really good, I think. It blended really easily. I didn't have to put down as many layers as I thought I would. So the next step for me is going to be, where's it at? Man, I'm dumb. I guess I'm going to do I'm going to do 2 layers of gloss lacquer over this, and then I will probably hit this with a maybe a black or a dark gray wash. I'm not sure if I'm going to go acrylic or if I'm going to go enamel just yet, but I will be washing this all out so all the details can stand out a little more. I'll hit it with another light gloss coat, and that will be when I do decals and flat coat. Of course, I won't flat coat anything until everything else is painted. I don't want to build up too many layers of paint so that it might cause complications later on. I'd rather avoid as much of that as I could, but you know, that's still got a little ways to go before I'll be able to tell whether or not that'll be an issue, which I'm sure it will, since the fit on a lot of these parts were tight anyway. I only expect them to get worse as I progress through the build. So I'm gonna go paint up the rest of this in the grays and the orange and all that, and get rid of some of these seams and stuff like that, and then we'll come back when the leg is assembled, and I'll probably assemble the other one just so you can see what they look like, bare plastic versus painted and cleaned up and all that. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Okay, so I believe I've showed this already. I probably have, but whatever. I'd rather just show it again than not show it. But this is going to be the end of this whip. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I've got done. I'm going to split the legs into two parts so you can see everything. I still have to order batteries and things like that. But this is where I'm at with the feet. So here's the back part of the foot. Here's the bottom part of the foot. And then the front piece on the bottom needs to be detailed. And you flip that over, and here's the front part of the toe. I'm not going to sandwich that together because it's hard to get apart. I think some of this I'm going to have to go back over. Obviously the bottom of that is a little gray in some spots, so just go over that once or twice and make sure it's nice and how I want it to be. This came out really well. I'm really happy with this. I think a little bit of touch up right here, and I think that's all. But you can see I've already washed this out. I have to clean up some of the wash around some of these edges here, but it's mostly done. Rescribed the lines on these. I've done all the work on these. So that's the oranges all finished for the most part. Touch-ups pending. The next thing is whites, or well, my first shade of gray rather. All pre-shaded with blue. Kind of a little stronger than what I normally do. It's still kind of subtle, but it's a little bit stronger than what I normally shade as. But I am pleased with the way the shade came out, especially considering it's a little thinned down. So it was a little hard to get my lines nice and straight. These parts need to be washed, and then it's on to these parts, which are going to be my next shade up of gray. So that's again going to be pre-shaded with blue. I'm just going to pre-shade all these with blue. But then I will gloss coat all these, wash them, mask them, do my dark shades, which are these parts over here. I've got put off to the side, and a handful of these are going to have details masked off. Give me 1 second. And the last thing I have to show are the piston pieces, which originally were red. I thought the red would look really weird in contrast with everything else, so I painted them a candy blue because that's the opposite of orange basically. So candy blue for the pistons and some of the internal details. That's all squared away. So today's work is going to be done on the grays. I'm going to try and get all the grays done so I can start working on the second video, and I can at least get one of the legs finished and mocked up so you guys can see what it looks like. Again, after I finish this one, I'm going to snap the other one up so you guys can see what they look like in comparison, so I'll show that off in the next video. I'm sorry I had to split this whip into two. I think that these are the biggest concentration of parts goes into the legs, so I think once I get the legs done, everything else will be pretty smooth sailing. You don't have to worry about seeing like 100,000 whips for arms and the chest and things like that. I think everything else will be pretty straightforward. I'm just going to break it down how it is in the instructions until we come up to final assembly. So what's left to do with these is I have to contact my client, find out what sort of decaling he wants. Obviously I'm going to be using primarily the decals that came with the kit, but I also want to know if he wants me to put custom team decals on or if he wants me to leave those off. Either is fine with me, of course. It's not my kit. But I've still got plenty of work to do, so I'm going to end this video here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'm sorry about the wait for how long this took to come out. Like I said, I shot 3-4 of these videos, and I just complained about the kit rather than just shutting up and building it. So thank you guys for sticking that out with me. So I'll see you with the next one. Later.